just mic'd up with Mikie Mahtook. Got the boys in. I got Lloyd. We got J. Mitch. We got Jackie Boy.
He tried to jump up and he might have knocked it in.
Good time. Let's go. What a start to the Monday. I mean, I'm from Lafayette. My boys would come in, say,
oh, God. So me and Joe on the ground. I got Joe in a headlock. And he's sitting there. Helmet. He's punching me in the stomach, like, steady punching me.
Here. And everyone's sitting around, who here thinks Ovchinko can practice today after having 5 full beers? And he goes, Chad Jones, right? Chad's been with the team 6 minutes. For 7 minutes, right? Chad's like, no, man, I don't think Ovchinko can practice today. And I was like, I look back, I'm like, Jesus Christ. I fucking saw you there. You were more fucked up than me.
Be on the spirit plane had some issues, I think. She was sleep farting.
You heard her or you just thought it was her?
I sat right next to her. I smelled.
Whoa. What was that?
Time to start the show.
I don't want to eat.
Why would I have that?
You had the circus or something. What was that?
6'3", I'm late. Like, I don't even know what I'd be doing.
Now, when you do go to spring training, are you going to bring your chinchilla and your turtle?
My dad tell you about it?
The SEC is, God, they hate fat people. I mean, I get crushed for that. You know what I mean? And it's like, come on, man.
Hey, just the South, bro. You got a bunch of food down here. Like they're all fatter than
him. Players, look at Lloyd.
You know what, Lloyd?
I mean, you're looking for a recruiting coordinator, coach. I'm here.
Yeah. He's like, I'll piss my pants right now.
No way.
We're wearing gray pants, long gray pants. He goes, I'll piss my pants right now.
Back in the saddle. Here we are. It is March 20th. Welcome back to a Monday version edition of Mik'd.
Mitch up.
Because of the circumstances, we'll give it Mik'd.
Yeah, you're right.
Mikey cannot make it today. Situation going on in his family. Little prayers up for him. They'll be fine. But we're back here today. So we're here. We got a weekend of LSU baseball, who wins the series this weekend. We have the LSU women's basketball team, who's moving on to the Sweet 16 after 2 victories this weekend. We got a great thing going right here with the Heineken headlines. Let's shoot through it some more. We also have Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who signs a 1-year, I don't know how, $8 million deal with the Detroit Lions. Somehow they are putting together a team there this year, and it's kind of interesting to see what they got going on over there. We got Ole Miss women's basketball, who went into Stanford, right, at their house.
In their place.
In the second round, and the big shocker of the women's tournament upsets the #1 Stanford team over there, which was unbelievable. We also have coming on at, 6:10, right, Lloyd? Jay Johnson will be on live at 6:10 to talk about their weekend and then their upcoming schedule as well. We also have Joe Ratty, Mr. Joe Schwartz, coming in the studio here at the 7 o'clock hour to talk some more about women's basketball before they get on the road to go and start the Sweet 16. So that's our start of the day right here. Let's go ahead and kick it off a little bit. You guys watched the well, first off, how was your weekend? Did everybody survive this St. Patrick's Day thing?
Well, we're all here. I think we did okay.
Are you fine?
I'm fine.
Are you good?
I'm good.
Are
You
good?
good?
Coach? I'm good. I'm great, baby.
We made it. We have one person that
I'm great.
maybe took a gash.
He made it. No, he made it.
He made it.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
made it. He made it. I saw it.
He's got some battle scars.
Yeah. We left around the same time. He's good. He's all right. I think. I hope.
He'll persevere.
I hope.
Probably went for a run.
Yeah. I don't know about that. He needs to stay away from that for a little while.
He hit the ground running.
Let's go ahead and sit on the bench for a little bit. Just go ahead and take a couple plays off. Great weekend. What did y'all get a chance to watch any of the LSU series this weekend?
Oh, I watched most of it, yeah.
What do you got on it? What's your take on it? What'd you see?
I think they're definitely the number one team in the country. I think Sunday, they started a little slow on Saturday, which I thought was good for them. A little punch in the mouth. Good to see them come back and still put up 12 runs against all left-handed arms. And then Sunday, it is what it is. You can't win them all. I think you got to the spot you wanted to get to with Christian Little on the mound, with the lead late, and ball just got through a hole. It happens. You won the series on the road. You can't complain.
What you got on it, Lloyd?
That's what I was gonna actually dovetail off your point. Is it feels like everybody expects this team to go undefeated every time they play. You're not going to sweep every series. You go into A&M, a team that has been predicted to win the College World Series after they went to what?
They were in the Final Four last year.
They were in the Final Four in Omaha. You go to their place, take 2 of 3, and people will seem like they're disappointed in what LSU did.
And you do it in
Which
mostly
is
dominant
shocking.
fashion. I mean, the whole weekend, you were controlling it for most of the weekend.
Skeens is unbelievable.
I love the camo hat move, too. Did y'all see why they keep wearing the camo hats?
He loves it.
Because he wants to do it, and everybody's like, fuck it, Paul's doing it, I'll do it. That's
Did
pretty
they just
much-
wear them on Sunday?
They wore them every day.
Did
They
they
wore
really?
them
I didn't-
all
yeah,
weekend.
Okay, well. Yeah, look, if Paul wants to do it, let's go ahead and do it. I don't really have much fight against whatever he's got to say right now. The kid's throwing unbelievably
many
lights
punches?
out a million. Maybe just
lot.
possibly somebody sitting in this studio right here would have cashed in on it if there was a prop bet on it. You may have called it
Maybe.
and hit it on the head. And I'm gonna be honest with you. I think I told you this over the weekend. I was really surprised too because
I was right for once.
he was at right about 100 pitches before that 11th strikeout. The 11th strikeout was the last strikeout of an inning, right?
Yep.
So I think he ended up at like 102 or 103 or something like that after that, right?
Still
and so I'm
pumping
thinking in my
triple
mind,
digits.
yeah, I'm thinking in my mind there. Well, they're up. There's still a shutout. He's gotten through 6. He's over 100 pitches. Of course, he's coming out this next inning. He comes back out, and I'm like, oh, imagine if Lloyd had money on this thing right now, seeing that he's coming back out for another at-bat. He ends up giving up a ground ball, so you still would have won the bet anyway had you had money on it. But I'm sitting here, I'm like, oh, my God, this would be a bad beat, right?
Oh, dude, speaking of bad beats, if you saw anything from the tournament, wherever going into the Sweet 16, whenever that guy just lifts a 3, they roll the ball out, and he just lifts a 3.
The TCU guy.
TCU, yeah, it was minus
So,
4. Yeah, go ahead.
I think they were down 6 or something like that, and the line was 4.5, and they rolled the ball all the way pretty much to the other 3-point line. He picks it up. There was 0.7 left on the clock. Picks it up, throws it in to cash the TCU covering the 4.5-point line.
Wow. Well,
It was the most nonchalant thing
yeah,
ever,
welcome, Welcome to
too.
March.
wow.
Everybody was just standing around. He picks it up. Just cash.
I will have to give myself no credit because my pick to click was Paxton Kling, and it didn't seem
Wasn't
like
his
it.
best weekend, but, you
I
know,
didn't know they're going
Fresh-
to move him back to the leadoff role.
listen, wherever the role is, remember that's one thing we talked about. We didn't know where he was going to be, but we wanted to see how he would take to it and be able to kind of hit the ground and go with it. He didn't have his best weekend. We get it, but he's also been hitting like 600 over the past like 12 games. So at some point it was going to kind of come down and level itself out. So it'll be interesting to see how he bounces back moving forward. On top of that, I can't wait to kind of get Jay in here to talk about his decision to insert Pearson into the lineup on the weekend. And Pearson actually had a very good weekend. Not that I'm sitting here saying I'm surprised, but that's not an easy thing to do when you hadn't really played as much as he is used to playing. And then here it is, boom, first SEC weekend. We roll you out there all 3 games. And he, held his own and did well.
Not only did he do well, but it felt like that, like I said, you don't get the sweep. It felt like that there was an opportunity for LSU to sweep. And even when you put we'll talk to Jay about this, but I'm interested to see what he thinks about the lineup and what they're going to do moving forward. You have a game, tomorrow?
Yep, tomorrow against Central Arkansas.
Well, you see, it's so interesting to me too, because I feel like year in and year out, you're sitting here saying and or thinking the same things, but realistically, it's about there's new people, there's new situations. You're asking different people to do different things year in and year out. And so this year's team, even though there's a Dylan, even though there's a Trey Morgan, even though there's guys on the team that have experience, but there's also guys like a Chase Shores. There's also guys like a Tommy White into the SEC. There's also guys that they're getting their first chance to do this, right? So when it comes to doing this, guys understanding and getting the, experience of here you are in the SEC. This is a very, very, very tough conference where every win really matters, right? So we get to a point at the end of it when you got a team down on the road, don't be afraid to kick them, right? Don't be afraid to stomp them and finish it out. And that was something that they couldn't and did not do. And we'll see how they take to that and kind of move forward with that opportunity as the season progresses. He's here. Oh, I need headphones. All right, well, we'll go to break, and we will bring back. We have Jay Johnson coming on in about a minute, maybe two. Run that.
EFCO Development is a civil construction company that specializes in new multifamily construction. They specialize in site drainage, site utilities, earthworks, site clearing, house pads, ponds, demo work, hurricane cleanup. So basically anything that's moving dirt, getting a site ready to be built on vertically has nothing to do with mathematics. Like Lloyd tried to say on Monday, he said he wasn't very sure. He didn't know what was happening with. He's not good at math, but
I'm not good at math.
Yeah, but math doesn't. You don't need math. I'm sure maybe there's some sort of thing, but
if Tyler works there,
you're not doing any equations or anything like that.
Quadratic formula.
Yeah, you're not doing the Pythagorean theorem or anything like that. You like that. And if you're interested, right? These guys are based out of Lafayette. They do a lot of work. They are very experienced in the industry. They've been doing it for their entire lives. And if you're interested and need any help, or you want somebody to do a project for you, call Tyler Leday at 318-229-5585. Again, the number is 318-229-5585. They are based out of Lafayette, but they will travel. They will come to you, and they're very good people. They're upstanding people, and they do a very good job. So our friends at EFCO Development, Ask Mikie Mitch is brought to you by our friends at EFCO Development.
Welcome back to Mik'd Up. We have Coach Jay Johnson here live. Coach, how you doing today?
Good. How you guys doing?
Oh, we're doing good. We're doing good. Congratulations on the first weekend in SEC play, coming out with a series win. That's always tough to do on the road, especially in the SEC. Just quickly, I guess, right out the gate, we get started with it. What is your feeling on the overall first weekend and how your team kind of went out there and performed, and what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I thought it was definitely more positive than negative. Starting with Friday, got a great performance again out of Paul Skeens, completely dominant. Offense came out ready against Nathan Detmer, who was a returning all SEC pitcher, supposed to also be a top 50 pick in his own right. Did a great job there. Saturday fell behind 4-0. Really the first time in a while that we've been trailing in a game, and couldn't respond better. I think we had a 6-run fourth inning, and finished that game off great. Sunday, got off to a great start. Obviously would have liked to have finished that off with a sweep. Bill Frank had told me today LSU had never swept Texas A&M at Texas A&M, so that was one that I want for that too. There's not a lot of firsts you can get as the LSU coach, that's for sure. But no, I thought it was good. I mean, we obviously wanted to finish that off yesterday. I think you could point to a couple reasons why we didn't, and I think those are controllable. So, we had a good weekend and learned a little bit more that's going to make us better moving forward yesterday.
So when you recruit kids and you go out and look at them, obviously talent is pretty high on the list and your ability and where you see that actually being able to go. But watching the kids make up, kind of trying to predict how it would fit into your program and then also how it would fit as they, face the competition in the league. When you look at a guy like Paul Skeens and then you obviously know what you're getting physically. You obviously know what you think you have in him as a person. But seeing it is something different. And there's tests and little benchmarks and check marks as the season goes, right? On the road, in a hostile environment, at A&M for the first time in the SEC. Let's be honest, it's a check mark you want to see, right? The way he was able to go out there and do it, please speak to it because it's super impressive.
Yeah, there was never a question in my mind either. Just the mental game with him is superb, and when you match that with the talent that he has and the competitiveness and the preparation, and I mean, all he wants to talk about Saturday is what does he need to do better next week? What's the next phase of his evolution as a player? And guy just had a dominant outing for the 5th week in a row, and the only thing he's talking about after the game is the next thing he needs to do to get better. So that's just an example of his competitive makeup and character.
Yeah, I mean, it was unbelievable watching him, man. Like, it almost looked like he was kind of toying around with the situation. Like, watching him basically, like, welcome the noise and the outside noise, but still able to hone it in from pitch to pitch is incredible. You don't see that much.
What is that, transfer portal? What was that? What are we getting?
Who was that? Yeah, no.
Skip calling you? No, you can't win 3 in a row.
Yeah, exactly, right? But yeah, like I said, with Paul, you know what you have on a Friday. Most of my teams have been, based around great offense, but to have a true ace like that, it completely changes the complexion of a series or what you're doing. And, last year it was really evident, like, if we want to compete for a national championship, you have to have that. Like, you can't win a national championship anymore without having future major league pitchers on our roster. And, Paul certainly sets the tone, with that, and got us off to a good start on Friday.
No doubt. And I hate to bring it up, but it's obviously somebody that struggled a little bit was Paxton Kling. What do you do with somebody as a freshman that goes into their first SEC weekend on the road and doesn't have the type of the productivity you would want? Is there any kind of change that you make going into Tuesday or going to a next SEC series, or you just kind of ride him out because of how talented he is?
Well, I mean, talent is not a question with him. And I think one of the more encouraging things, I was kind of looking around the field yesterday, a number of guys that were playing in that game. And again, a game we were winning until, 4 outs to go. I mean, we completely handled the series, for all but 4 outs the way that you want to. But a number of the guys that are at the forefront of this thing are going to be here next year. And, to be in a position where we have this quality of team with, as many guys to have the potential to return that are making a positive impact is a really good spot to be in. And, this is a big jump. I probably have talked about it with you guys before, just to Division I baseball, but to the top of SEC from high school baseball. That's like, you're diving into the deep end, from, the highest high dive. And there's some challenges with that, and, that's just part of growing and that's part of learning. And, Paxton, he'll be fine. And we'll get to work on some things this week, but I think we'll look back on it as a good learning experience.
And Coach, whenever you continue to look at your lineup and going into, obviously you have a midweek game that you've taken very seriously, the crux around what LSU thinks about midweek games and how the fan base reacts. What did you think of everybody? What did you think of how your weekend went and the fan reaction? Obviously, you're not going to win all, how many games do you play? 56?
56.
you're not going to win all 56, but I feel like taking 2 of 3 from an A&M team that was, as you said, was predicted to win by a bunch of SEC coaches. Do you feel like this was a win for the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. Like, I was disappointed after the game yesterday because, for me, it's not about series sweeps. It's not even about series wins. It's about the next game that's on the schedule. And we were prepared to play yesterday. Like, I mean, we came out, we're up 5-1, 5-2, got out of a jam, added another run on, was ahead 6-4, got out of 2 jams. And, they deserved to win. Tucker, coming into the game and getting 2 hits and making that diving catch, I don't know if they win the game if they don't insert that guy into the lineup. I'm really happy he wasn't in the rest of the weekend.
Right, yeah.
I mean, as far as I don't have any reaction to anybody else's reaction because I don't pay a lot of attention to it. I can tell you guys, and we've talked enough to know this, we treat every game like a playoff game. Tomorrow night is Game 7 of the World Series for me. And I think that's the way that you should approach the season. And it does a couple things. Obviously, it helps you, not maybe stumble where you shouldn't. But every game with us is taken with the utmost respect. And that's how I want our players to approach it. So that way, when you get to the postseason, they only know one way to play. Right. And my teams have typically played very well in the postseason. And I think it stems from a model of consistency of we treat every game like a playoff game. And so, I'm pleased to go in and win 2 out of 3. I mean, I know they were in the coaches poll, were one of the teams that had the most votes to win the national championship this year. I'm not going to lose sight of the fact that, we went on the road to a very veteran team that was in Omaha last year and won 2 out of 3. It's just a good accomplishment. Now, do I wish we would have won yesterday? 1,000%. So you can have a balance in there. And probably the most important thing is, the only thing that's important is moving on. And over the course of 10 SEC weekends, you don't have the time to look back and go like, hey, I wish we'd have did this here. It's like, we got a huge week coming up this week, and so we have to get to that. And that's what I stress to the players after the game is for the next 10 weeks, 11 weeks, 14 weeks, you have to master the skill of moving on, whether we succeeded or failed. And I have no doubt that they'll do that this week.
Coach, so now without being very, very much tested, I guess, throughout the weekend as far as for being able to match up with your roster Friday, Saturday, and Sunday with the competition that's been on the schedule so far. With Ty and Thatcher only going 3 1/3 Saturday and Sunday, what were you able to learn about the bullpen as far as for guys being able to maybe go back-to-backs and or throw multiple times over the weekend, and kind of who can fit in and who can kind of really step up and show out and do things that you maybe either slated them to do or didn't know if they could do it yet?
Yeah, I think looking back to Saturday, and he's done it 4 or 5 times already, Garrett Edwards, really picked us up in that game. Really, really picked us up in that game. And that was awesome to see. I have great faith in him. Through 66 pitches, and that's a good number. That's almost like a starter, in that regard. And so if you're going to get 7 innings combined out of 2 guys with the lead and enough in the bullpen to finish it out, I'm good with that. We had to be far more creative last year than using 2 guys for 7 innings to put ourselves in position to win. So I really liked Garrett. What's that?
I said call Coop. That was all you could do.
Well, and then he came in and did a good job, and we were able to get him out. And then Sunday, we had the lead and we lost it. But if you look at what some guys did at the outset of coming in, there was a lot of traffic on base, and Riley came in and got a double play ball. Wasn't as good in the next inning, but he did come in and get us out of a jam. And then Chase Shores came in and got us out of a big jam. Yeah. And I thought it very well for, being in that atmosphere for the first time. I thought that was a really, really good sign. And then with Christian, we were an out away from getting out of that mess and taking a 2-run lead to the 9th. And so, you credit them sometimes. They did a good enough job getting base runners on and putting pressure on us, where eventually they cracked, and we kind of did the same thing the day before to them. Right. So, I thought it was more positive than maybe the results. We did not do a good job of getting ahead in the count yesterday. We were under 50% at that, and it's too good of an opponent to where they're eventually gonna find a way, and they did with Weld and Tucker taking good at bats right there.
Coach, somebody that really didn't get talked about a lot preseason and didn't really get a lot of ABs early, but got a big chance this weekend and took advantage of it, was Josh Pearson. What went into giving him that shot on Friday, and then what went into his performance this weekend?
Yeah, good weekend for Josh. I have total faith in him and confidence and trust. And, the decisions aren't always just, hey, this player over this player. It's what does the team need? And, man, it was windy as could be out there. And the home run was tough to come by. I think there was only 2 hit the entire series. I just felt like we needed to defend in the outfield. And I felt like we needed somebody in the lineup that was going to move the ball forward because, behind Dylan Cruz and White and Dugas, like those guys are going to be on base. And I just wanted somebody to be able to move the ball forward with runners on base. And we needed it to be a left-handed hitter. And I thought he would provide that. And great weekend for Josh. And he's been working hard. And we have a good roster, so sometimes it's like, you can play the hot hand, and his numbers or performances weren't necessarily loud leading into it, but he's getting on base a lot, and he was taking quality at bats, and obviously I know what he can do against this caliber of competition, so I just believed it was the right time to insert him.
Coach, I want to know kind of what went in your thought process of this. I kind of circled Jared Jones in my mind, seeing what he would do on the weekend, because I thought it would be a huge kind of test to see how the rest of the lineup would be pitched and also how they would actually attack him. Now, your move to actually put Gavin Dugas in that spot and hit him behind Tommy, I thought was an unbelievable move. What went into your thought process of doing that?
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. And, when you have good players like we do, you have the affordability to maybe shuffle the deck from time to time. And, it kind of goes along with what I just talked about, where to me, every game is a playoff game. Every game carries weight. If you want to, just be in the postseason, you need to win as many games as you can. B, if you want to host a regional, host a super regional, these all matter. And so looking at the opponent, the pitching matchup, looking at how their bullpen was structured, and Texas A&M has a very good bullpen. Right. You want to make sure you make the most of the times that you get runners on base. And I felt like Gavin had been taking good at bats. It was a good place to put him. Paxton had been playing very well going into the weekend. And it's a different dynamic in that leadoff spot when he's going good. And then knowing we had Josh kind of in between Gavin and Jared to move the ball forward, I just kind of gave you hey, here's a good on base guy. Here's a guy that can hit a line drive somewhere with power all throughout. It's nice luxury to have that. I mean, then you're sitting like, I think Jordan Thompson's, one of the better players in the SEC this year. And I mean, he's hitting the 8-hole or 9-hole. And, and Brady Neal, I thought, did a nice job both behind the plate, starting them all 3 games this weekend and had some good at bats for us. So real positive on the offensive side. I mean, we went in and scored, not a math major, but, 27 runs in 3 games on the road against, a team with, pro prospects all over their pitching staff. And they weren't very comfortable the whole weekend. Yeah. And, it's credit to the whole lineup.
Now, it's early. I know it's early. You know it's early, but we've heard so much grumbling about it. I would just love for you to be able to kind of give your thought process on this. Are you concerned at all with the roster's performance against left-handed pitching at this point of the year?
No, I mean, we're undefeated. We're undefeated against left-handed pitching, so that's
all that matters at the end of the day. Well, there's one stat that matters.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, here's the thing: when a left-hander comes out and throws a complete game against us, then maybe you could say that. But it's going to take more than one pitcher to hold us down for 27 outs. And I just don't think there's a lot of guys that can do it. Now, it doesn't mean it's not going to happen because this is the SEC. We're playing at the top of college baseball. I mean, I think the next 5 weekends, maybe even 6 on our schedule are against ranked teams, and on generally at the top half of the top 25 rankings. But, I think maybe it's the product of being spoiled a little bit when you're hitting 330 as a team and have like a 460 on base percentage or something like that. That just is part of baseball, and, hitting's hard. And, I think I looked at the numbers today, and I mean, Troy Wansing, the starter on Saturday, was left-handed, and he had 33 strikeouts in 19 innings, and he didn't get out of the 3rd inning. So
there you go. I love it. I love it. I guess you could easily say and point to, if we're just looking at from last year's team to this year's team year 1 of Jay Johnson to year 2 of Jay Johnson, I think the biggest quote-unquote surprise so far has been how well the defense has played. Would you accredit that performance by your defense to be from actual defensive play, or would you put a little bit more of the credit being on the actual mound performance that you're getting from pretty much the entire staff right now?
Yeah, complimentary baseball. To play good defense, I think a very underrated quality of that is the pitchers executing pitches. So they actually hit it to where you're playing, or they hit it less and there's a strikeout. And we're certainly better on the mound. We have the best pitcher in the country going on Friday. We have really capable guys starting every game. We have capable guys we can bring in that can execute pitches. They're ahead in the count, so you get a little weaker contact as opposed to being behind in the count when the hitter knows a certain pitch is coming and can blast it. Those balls that are hit harder are a lot harder to field. But we worked, on the work side, we worked really hard on it. Tommy White, very motivated to become a really good defensive player at third base. Jordan Thompson has played exceptional at shortstop. Dugas, we moved him to the infield. He's done a good job. Ben Napolt has played great in the infield. Trey's been good at first.
And left.
Yeah, and left. Yeah, outfield, you're looking at, Dylan has become an outstanding center fielder. Paxton is a center fielder playing right field. And really every guy that we've played in left has done a job. And, the outfield isn't that hard to play in the SEC because the fields are also small. The catchers have done a good job handling the pitching staff. So there's a lot to go around, and I'm very pleased with the defensive effort so far.
A quick one here for you, Coach. Obviously, you saw a little bit of a shift that happened with A&M whenever they were what they were doing defensively, where Trey Morgan hit 2 right up the middle, where it feels like they should have been base hits. Is that something that you expect to see going forward, or is that just A&M doing a little bit of advanced scouting, or what? You can't really blame Trey for any of those things. They're supposed to be base hits.
Yeah, there was the one that was tough was the one yesterday, and it was just a hard ground ball, but
right up the middle.
It was 6-4, and that would have made it 8-4 because we had runners on second and third, which I firmly believe we're definitely going to win that game if that one would have got through. But credit them; they have a guy on their staff named Chuck Box that does a lot of scouting stuff for them and does a really good job. And he hit the ball hard right at people, but again, it's where you don't want to overreact to something on the surface because we asked him to hit the ball hard and low. He's really good at hitting the ball hard and low. He did it a couple times with right at people. He had 2 base hits early in the game on Friday night, doing the same thing. It just nobody was standing there. So, he's doing fine. And, we were able to, from a hitting standpoint, we've done about as good a job as you can of using the whole field, throughout the lineup. And we actually beat that shift a few times. So it's, I think it's a complex thing.
All right, looking ahead, you have Central Arkansas tomorrow, Arkansas this weekend. Obviously, one game at a time. Is there anybody that we didn't see this weekend, maybe a Griffin Herring or a Micah Bucknam, that might get some time on the mound tomorrow before Arkansas comes into town?
100%. We used guys twice for the first time this weekend. We used a couple guys, got up into the 60 pitch count both Saturday and Sunday, so they're not available. So, yeah, we'll be piecing it together, and I'm really excited about it because, this team was built, by design with depth for situations like this. You mentioned Griffin Herring. For me, that's the one guy that needs to pitch more and will pitch more, and he'll be in the game tomorrow night for sure. There's no question about that. Micah Bucknam was really making some improvements, and we just kind of hit that weird deal with the 10-run rule, where we kept scoring 1 billion runs and not giving up any runs, and then it got to the point where hey, I need to get this guy in the game because he's going to pitch next weekend at Texas A&M. So a couple of those guys got shut out a little bit, but I don't think that's going to be the case going forward, and I'm good with that because I feel good about the list of pitchers we have for tomorrow, and looking forward to seeing them execute.
Coach, don't apologize for 10 running teams. It's okay.
Yeah, first world problem.
Exactly.
Right?
Coach, we don't want to keep you, so I got one more question, or I guess a comment I'd like to hear out of you. We mentioned him earlier in the year. He's missed a good bit of the year. I don't think people realize exactly what Tommy White has been able to bring and add to this lineup. Can you just speak on his veteran approach and his ability to actually hit and clutch situations? The guy's got 34 RBIs in 17 games right now. That is unbelievable.
It's a mean squad with 2 strikes.
Sign me up for 2 a game forever. I'll take that.
I'll put that in the lineup every day.
Yeah, Dylan Cruz and Tommy back-to-back's not bad.
Yeah, no, that's one you wish you could bottle up forever, for sure. He's doing a great job. I think he came in with a really good foundation and understanding. I think the coachability part of it has been really good. And what I mean by that is you can give him one thing before he goes to the plate, and he literally does it. And it was interesting. In his last at bat, he swung at a ball, and it was almost surprising because he's been so locked in for the last 2.5 weeks. And man, the 2-strike hitting thing, the hitting with runners in scoring position, a guy can hit it 500 feet, but he has the maturity to stay within himself and do what he needs to do to help the team win. And that was about as clutch of weekend as you could ask from one hitter with runners in scoring position and the quality of the bat. So yeah, certainly glad he's wearing purple for the next 2 years.
100%. Coach, thank you so much for your time this week. Good luck this weekend against the entire state of Arkansas, basically.
Coach, we one game at a time. We're on to Tuesday.
The entire state of Arkansas, basically, this week. And just go ahead.
I didn't even put that together until you said that. So that's good.
Good luck, Coach. Thank you, and we'll talk to you again soon, man.
Sounds good. See you.
Appreciate it.
Top 5 matchup in the box.
Top 5 matchup in the box this weekend. They got to take care of business on Tuesday. Tuesday's going to be interesting because, like he said, they had guys throw a lot this weekend. They are going to have to kind of piece it together for the first time this week. So piecing it together, he's going to need guys who are not necessarily stretched out to kind of give him a little more to be able to kind of piece this thing all the way through 9 innings to be able to bridge them to the weekend, to be able to go fresh into the weekend. So it'll be interesting to see how they go and how those guys pitch and perform on the mound / defensively tomorrow night to kind of get them to the weekend.
That was the only thing that I left on the docket that I wanted to ask was them having to use multiple pitchers multiple days in a row. And it gets
he kind of touched on it a little bit.
Yeah, he did a little bit, but it's just the first time they've had to be there. He talked about them being able to basically 10 run everybody that they've played, so you've never been in that situation. Now you're kind of behind the 8 ball just a little bit in terms of, all right, short rest, who can we throw out there? I feel like Coop's still that answer because he's got an elastic arm. It just, anytime you need somebody to throw you 40, 50 pitches, he can do it. But
peak performance.
I think, yes, he is. That's what it's supposed to look like. And I think you hit on a great question, Jack, whenever you're asking about Griffin Herring, other guys that you haven't really seen yet that are still on the roster and can still deal. And so I think you might see some of that. Obviously, I don't think Jay's going to tip his hand on who he's pitching.
Yeah.
Even on a Tuesday
I knew he wasn't
going
to say the starter.
Yeah. Right.
So, who are we going to see?
Somebody.
You're going to see a lot of them. I wouldn't be surprised if they threw 5 different arms on tomorrow night.
By committee?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Kind of piece this
probably
thing together.
Gavin Guidry. Needs a few. Needs some more.
Yeah,
Herring.
He might get in there. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what they do. You know what's so
Who do you
funny?
think
Like,
gets to start tomorrow?
I guess the start tomorrow. I'm not sure, honestly, because they've been so deep with the guys that they've used, and we know all those guys were like weekend guys, right? So we, like you said, we haven't been able to see them get to a spot to where they need guys, right? Like I know in the past we've seen guys like maybe Will Helmers get the ball in this situation. Maybe he does again. You know, I don't know. It'll be very interesting because there's guys like the guys you asked about and stuff. I wouldn't say lower, just that hasn't thrown as much, who need to throw, and this will be a great situation to see who kind of gets the start in a situation to do that.
Because you still got guys like Sam Dutton and Bryce Collins that didn't throw this weekend,
Exactly.
and that are like were guys for you last year.
Exactly.
I mean, I don't know.
You still have Moffitt that hasn't thrown really.
Yeah. I mean, if it's a left-handed heavy lineup, I would assume Herring would get the start. I don't know how long he throws, but I think he'd be the first guy out there. I don't know Central Arkansas's lineup. No offense to them, but
And it's funny. So like, I guess looking back on the weekend again, like Jay, he's 100% right in the sense of his approach is every game matters, every game needs to be won, every game is the World Series. But that doesn't mean you basically approach it and kind of coach it, I guess, in the same way of every situation. I want to know I would love to know if like inside of that locker room, even though he tells us it's game by game by game, if there was after the game an emphasis, or if there is going to be going forward, an emphasis on, hey, when you get a chance to sweep, when you get a chance to close out a team, it's super important. Don't let those opportunities go to waste. Don't beat a Texas A&M on a Friday and Saturday and start the game with a lead and give it up. Now, it's not something to necessarily be mad about in the sense of, look, that's like you said, there's a Final Four team last year. They got some veteran guys. They know what they're doing. They're going to be a very competitive team in the end, right? So it's not like they just gave it up to anyone. But when you get a chance, you want to finish those kind of things because those could be the difference in a 19-win second-place finish or a 21-win first-place SEC championship win, who gets you an automatic bid, who gets you a certain spot at home just off of that. And you don't have to go and do it in the SEC tournament or anything like that. So it'd be interesting to see, or would love to have heard, which I know I'm not surprised at all that he didn't tip his hand on that. But I wonder if that's something that he actually talks about inside that locker room at all.
He's talking to you.
I was typing in the comments to the live stream. They asked the question of who else we lost in the fall besides Grant Taylor, and it was Jaden Newt. Which, when you think about the guys that were hurt, it's like, goodness, how ridiculous it could be.
I'm telling you right now, and I think that's another thing too. Like, you have a Grant Taylor still on that roster. I think they end up, they're, like you said, 4 outs away. You have a Grant Taylor in that locker where you can kind of turn these guys the ball over to Christian Little from Chase Shores a couple outs early, from Little to Taylor a couple outs early. You might get out of that situation. And that's crazy to me that as deep as they are, this conference will test you every single time in that situation to see just are you deep enough or can those guys you have in those spots actually just get the job done.
And that's what I think is kind of impressive about the LSU baseball team is how they're, and also Jay, is how he's able to almost tinker with the lineup in game. He's trying to find out what people have, whatever. It's like you win Friday, Saturday. He's like, all right, Sunday we'll see what we got. Like he's not worried about the wins and losses in that regard. I understand what he said. Where he's like, I treat every game like a game 7, but he's also planning for the future in terms of what do we have for.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I kind of saw the grumblings of people wondering about. All right, you have a freshman catcher with a right-handed catcher on the bench still. You got another big left-handed bat on the bench still. You got another right-handed bat on the bench still. Why did we leave the freshman catcher in to hit in that spot? Well, because this is series 1 out of 10 series in the SEC.
See what you got.
I need to know if this kid can actually perform in these spots, right? That's where those situations. So maybe if we're in series 6 or 7 and you have an answer at that point, maybe a decision gets made, but you have to know, you have to see if Brady Neal can perform in those spots, right? He also has to know, I'm sure at some point he probably told Brady, like, hey, if you're going to be good in this league, if you're going to play in this league, you're going to see guys like that, whether it comes as a closer or a middle reliever or a starter. So if you want to play, and I want you to play, obviously, because I'm putting you out there, I need you to have at-bats off of guys like that. And as much as this game's super important on the scoreboard, it's also super important moving forward for the rest of the year, which means you have to have this experience or you won't know how to react in these situations and or play in these situations. So that's what I meant earlier by saying, like, every game matters, but that doesn't mean you manage them the same way, if that makes any sense.
You can take something away from a win or a loss in a different way, and if you had that same strategy where he wants to yank somebody early, then you don't get a Bear Jones 7 RBI game in game 2.
Yeah.
You know, like, you have to be able to put him out there and trust him and be like, okay, let's see what you have. I'm riding with you. He's going to do the same thing with Paxton Kling, where, what was he, 1 for 15 this weekend?
Yeah.
My pick to click, crushed it.
Jeez, crush the kid a little more.
I have no problem saying that because I know he's going to perform. Like, I know how good he is.
But listen, pick the click. Look, if they don't click, they just don't click.
They
We
just
can't,
don't click.
we can't crush. Can't crush him while
No,
he's down.
I'm saying Jay's not going to take him out the lineup because he knows
No.
how good he is.
Yeah,
like that's just going to happen whenever you go on the road. First SEC weekend, that was definitely on the table, as especially in the leadoff spot where you can bury him at 7th or 8th, but I think Jay was testing him to see how good are you?
Yeah.
Like, can you, because having Dugas behind him at what, when you go Dylan Cruz, Tommy White, and then Dugas, that's the best.
And then Jared Jones behind that.
That's what I'm saying. So that would be the optimal lineup, and so Paxton Kling batting 1 would make sense, but if that's too much pressure for him, then move him back down the lineup because he's got to play right field. He's too good at it.
Well,
And
also,
I don't even think it's about pressure. It's literally just, can we get the consistency from a young player, right? I think we had him on here, dude. You've talked to him. We've talked to him. Like that. I don't think pressure is something that really is getting to him right now. It's whether or not just can you be consistent week in and week out, because if you can, your ability, your talent, you play in this lineup very well in this spot. And it really, really, really makes this lineup pop. Like Gavin's he's been really good up there, right? But if we can put Gavin, a veteran bat with some pop, who's going to give you great at bats behind your 2 best hitters in the lineup, to where, look, if we just keep putting those guys on, you're going to run into a guy who 2 years ago led the SEC, I think, in RBIs and homers. Do you really want to do that when he's having a good year and he's feeling good? I don't think you do. Right? And if you want to try to put him on, well, there's a freshman right behind him where all he's got to do is put the ball in play and he can score runners. But his putting the ball in play may be over the scoreboard because he's that strong. You don't want that either. You get what I'm saying? So it makes it a huge problem. If you don't have to, I won't even say waste. Waste is not a very fair word. But if you don't have to put Gavin at the top and you can put him there, oh my God, it really makes the lineup pop.
Well, he said he put in Pearson because of his ability to have good at-bats against SEC arms like last year and move the ball. A lot of people are saying it, and I kind of agree. If you're going to move Kling out of the leadoff spot, I think Pearson would be a very good option.
He would be, and my only, and this is you got to understand, I don't really love this statement myself because I'm on the same side of Pearson in the sense of I was a left-handed bat, right? So I understand this. But if you're going to keep Trey at the 2 spot, which I'm not saying you shouldn't, right? Having Pearson at the 1 spot kind of you present a problem in yourself. Why? Because if you got Brady at the 9 and then now you have Pearson at the 1 and you got Trey at the 2, well, we got 3 lefties in a row. So we're setting ourselves up to be pitched situationally by left-handed guys. So that's my only real problem when it comes to having Pearson at the top, which is why for them having Paxton there and doing what he can do and playing consistently would be huge.
Yeah. But what if you put Paxton at the 9 spot? Because say he's hitting well like he had been. That's a perfect guy to have at the 9 spot to flip your order with speed on the base if he gets on.
I mean, you're not wrong, but
there's a lot of things.
No, you're not wrong.
I don't think there's any wrong option.
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong, but you have to think of it this way. With respect, have you seen that kind of offensive ability and output from Brady Neal? Like right now, do you see him being able to go on the tear that Paxton went on?
No.
Man, it'd suck to waste that in the 9 spot, right? And he'd be the guy that's not hitting a lot in the game, having that opportunity to do that, right? So you don't necessarily want to put him down there. You get what I'm saying? Like there's too much of a top end ability to say, damn, I really feel like he needs to hit in the 9 spot, because if he goes on one of those, you want him hitting.
Yeah.
You don't want to waste it, and he's getting the least amount of bats in the game.
Right.
Get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like, I'm not saying it's wrong to have him down there, but it's hard to just say let's do it, because if he's doing what you know he can do, you're somewhat kind of wasting it down there. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's why it makes sense to try to keep putting Paxton at the one hole, because not only does it feel like he's your best threat to steal a base, like he's the one has taken the initiative to steal bases every time he gets on, and he was essentially
if I ran a
hitting over
60,
480.
running
Yeah. And look, let me tell you this too. At the end of the day, let's be honest. Like weekends or stretches, however you want to call it, like it don't have to be a weekend. It could be like, say they have
flush it.
It could be 2 midweek games in the first 2 games of a weekend series, and then he breaks out on a Sunday. But a 15 at bat stretch is kind of whatever. But if I keep hitting you in front of Trey and Dylan and Tommy,
They're going to go after
You're
you.
going to get pitches.
you're going to get pitches to hit. That's where I need you to be, right? So it's not like they're going to keep trying to thumb him to death, flip it to him to death, and make him get himself out. He's going to get attacked. Now it's when you're attacked, are you ready to not miss your pitch and or pitches that you may get throughout the course of a game? He didn't do it this 15 at-bat stretch. But that's also maybe what you get from a freshman, right? So there's a learning curve. There's an opportunity. It was his first weekend in the SEC, right?
Away.
Which Jay already touched on. Like you go from high school to college. That's a big jump. You go from college to your first week in the SEC and a very good pitching staff. That's a huge jump. Like a huge jump. This was his first time. He got a taste of it. Now he's able to move forward and have that under his belt and have the feel of it.
And don't get it twisted that LSU was probably 2 pitches away from sweeping.
Yeah.
4 outs, like you said.
Or
4
just a
outs.
few feet to the left or right of that ground ball. Tommy
4
catches it or JT gets it. I mean, it's just baseball.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Christian Little came in and played. I think he pitched well both times he was in the game, and that's kind of that's what happens. And if he's not able to locate that slider both ways the way he is, then he can get exposed a little bit. But knowing that, it feels like Jay's doing the thing where, all right, I'll throw you out there and see what happens, especially after you take 2 of 3 on the road. It's like, all right, the third game, let's see what we got here. And so to be that comfortable with knowing how good your staff is, whether it be on the offensive end or the pitching staff, LSU seems like they're in a pretty good spot.
Oh, they're in a great spot. Did y'all notice, though, that the guy that got the game-winning hit was also the guy that Tommy pushed the arm off at third base?
Yeah.
And they called him out.
I did. I did notice
Momentum.
I did notice that. By the way, that play is
That
good for
was-
him. He
that
got
was
the call.
tough.
I'm actually surprised they didn't like switch that. I've seen that happen multiple times. You usually don't see it to where there is a replay on it, and I was like, there's just absolutely no way they won't
Overturned.
overturn it, and they didn't overturn it. I was
like-
very surprised. It was
I thought
it
it
was
was
as
pretty
blatant.
blatant.
You got to think about it too. Like he's sliding in, he's got the oven mitt on, so there's nothing to grab with,
Yeah.
right? Like he doesn't have anything. He's on the bag, and Tommy was a day late and a dollar short of getting there.
It just dove right into his arm.
Literally dove right into it and just pushed it off, and they just said, "Nah, oust." On the road, you never see those type of calls. I was very surprised you got that call, and I don't know if that's the case. Why, as an infielder, why wouldn't I just always push
Dude,
you?
That's what
Every
we said.
time.
I was watching it with the Balcony Bengals friends. We were waiting outside the PMAC, and we were watching it. We're like, so he just shoulder bump every single guy that touches third base now and just tag him.
And so when they started doing replay, it first started obviously in the big leagues. When they started doing that, that was my gripe, and the thing I hated about the thought of people being able to hold the tag on, because that can be easily misconceived as, oh no, he just held it there. Right? Obviously, Tommy was diving there, but what's the difference of you being close enough to have a good base and not being extended with your arm to where when you put the tag down, you just push him off? There's literally no difference in that. And I don't like the thought of, hey, if I just hold it on him and keep it on him, and if I keep pushing him off of it, you'll call him off the bag. And if he's off, he's off. I think that's kind of a Bush way of what it is right there. And I'm not saying that's what Tommy did. He literally dove at him that time. But I'm saying there is a way to play the game that I think is pretty Bush, that if I was in that situation, I could always just push you off. And are they going to call it or not? You know what I mean? And I don't. In this situation, they still didn't. But if we're going to go to replay and they don't call it, hell, I'd be teaching all my infielders to do it that way.
Well, that's the thing with replay is that are we really going to – they've made the decision in terms of whether it be Major League Baseball or college baseball that if you ever come off the base at any point, at any time, you're out, which I don't think should be the rule, because it has to be like a beat. What do you think about, like, whatever if you ever swiped a bag, you'd be like, I beat the throw there. And if I come out, if you're going to replay it the way that Major League Baseball is doing it and the way college baseball is doing it now, it's impossible to stay on the bag the entire time. It should just be first to touch.
Yeah.
And then after that, who cares?
I've always thought of it that way because it's happened to me, obviously, in pro ball a good bit.
Especially with
where
turf.
You slide, especially with turf, because you just don't stop sliding. But you slide in or dive, and you're going into a bag. Like I told you, like I was always, I'll give a little baseball 1-on-1. As I got through the second half of my career, my thought process was yes, in T-ball. I only never played past T-ball. But
You and Mikey never got past T-ball.
I was pretty smart in T-ball though. As I played in the second half
Big
of my
trophy
career,
case from
Straight to
T-ball.
third, yeah.
I would always, obviously, I'm taking my leads from the back half of the base. Well, I got to even going to where I would say, let's take about 2 feet behind the base. Let's take a lead there because in my mind, so my mindset is this as a base runner, right? You know, when we step on the field as a players, you know who is the burners, the guys that can get a bag, and the guys that are station to station. Station to station, and the guys that can maybe get a bag. I wouldn't suggest you do this. But for guys that are burners, that are like when you get on the bases that we know, like you could run, me, Lloyd, guys like that.
I was fast.
Jack was, he could get he could get a bag. He wasn't,
I could get one if I needed one.
Kayshawn?
For guys we know that were burners, I don't know.
Kayshawn got hosed.
Kayshawn pre-combine. For guys that you know that were burners, I always thought like, hey, you won't get paid or you're not here to be able to beat out ground balls in the infield. Would it be great? Yeah. So when I say take a lead that is 2 feet behind the bag, kind of as if like you're getting depth like you would at second base a little bit, but obviously not that. But just 2 feet behind the bag. So now when I steal, I'm going to go a straight path from that. I'm not going to go straight at the bag. I'm going to go a straight path from that. So now when I slide, I'm this far away, which makes it that much harder for him to be able to come down and tag. There's a lot of space. There's not a lot of body. There's not a lot of real estate for him to tag, right? And he's got to go a long ways to get there to make a tag. It makes it a lot easier to get to the bag. My point of saying it is I used to do that, and as I'm doing this, they're gonna dive because they're not there. They're not close enough to me. They're diving. They're trying to hold it on as you taught, and their literally body weight is pushing them to hold it and push me off the bag. Now, if they're able to push me off the bag, and you knew I was there, how was that an out? I have an oven mitt on. I can't grab the base. Even if I did, if he pushes me off and I throw my shoulder out, like it doesn't, I think that's a part that needs to be cleaned up in baseball to me. But it's been there since they started this replay where they've always taught. Now they teach them a lot. Hold it on, just hold it on him. Which hold it on him is if I put pressure, I could push you off of it. Oh,
I used to pick up hands and put my glove underneath it and be like, look,
it's out.
It's out. And I got away with it a ton. Because if you can hold it up and say, look, I have my glove underneath it, he's not touching the base.
I'm heavy in the thought process of if I beat you there in conventional, like what meets the eye, right? If I beat you there in what meets the eye, I'm either you're out or you're safe right there. Not holding on him until his body weight and everything completely stops moving. I really don't love that idea of it.
No, I've had a problem with this, and then you have people like Javi Baez who's able to avoid a tag and then hold on to the base. Like he's one of one that's able to do that. Whenever you're looking at baseball and the way it is, if you beat the throw there, you're safe. That's how it is in my mind. You can't hold the tag on me the entire time. My body comes up when I'm trying to put my foot back on it. Especially, it just doesn't make any sense to me. It feels a little like NFL-ish to me where they're looking so hard at the replay that of course you can find anything that you want.
And I'll say this too. Now that's just me talking about going in head first. But like if I went in feet first, if it's not a complete like into the bag pop-up slide, theoretically, how am I supposed to stay on the base throughout the whole slide? Is it supposed to be foot to where I get close enough and now my hand replaces and my hand replaces when I stand up? There's a lot of time for something to come off if the tag is held on me and for you to say, oh, well, he's out now, even though I beat you by a step and a half. So stuff like that I don't really love. I think you're kind of in a gray area with stuff like that. But the rule as they have it right now opens that up to be, kind of a part of the game, which I'm not really in love with right now. So that's just kind of what it is.
And I think we have Ratty outside to talk a little LSU
All right, well,
basketball.
We'll go with one more little break here. We'll kind of give you a little love to our sponsors really quick, and then we got Joe coming in studio, and we'll talk a little LSU women's basketball.
And we'll be right back.
Are you gonna have a Heineken Silver for the game, maybe?
kind of want one now.
You gonna shotgun another one?
You want another? I don't know if you should shotgun because we saw how that went last time. You
I don't know.
won.
I feel like you got to redeem yourself.
I think you can have a drink. I don't think you should shotgun it.
The way
Okay,
it went,
I'll
I think
enjoy
you should,
this
I think
one.
you should chug it, but maybe not shotgun it.
the way it went last time, it's
Yeah, I could do. I mean, I
can't
can
sip
do
it.
anything. I know. All right, fuck it.
All right, go ahead. Go for it. There.
Oh, that was much
There you
better.
go.
1, 2,
Open it up a little bit. You know what I
4,
mean?
5, 6, 7, 8,
Okay.
9,
Okay. It's
10,
now it's starting to drip. Now
11,
you're struggling a little bit.
12,
It's pretty good.
13. It's not bad.
I'll give you a
Not
13.
bad.
12 and a half seconds there. How was it? Was it good?
Delicious. You
It was
can't
very
do that
delicious. With a regular one.
with a regular one.
Right.
You can only do that with the silver.
The silver, why? Because the silver's lighter. It's got
Lighter.
95 calories. It's pretty crisp.
I res-
That wasn't even cold. I know you don't necessarily need a cold beer. That was room temp.
That's
but
the
I
old
respect how
fraternity days
quickly
in me.
you turned around and gave me a full sentence. That was quick. I
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
No
officer,
doubt.
I'm fine.
Respect that.
You've been, look, you've been
Walk the
around
straight
before.
line, kid.
Yeah,
You've been around before, but
it's just breakfast.
it's a very good beer. It's
It
a
is.
very light beer. It's something that you can
Easy to drink,
easy to drink,
easy to pour.
Yeah. But it's something that I think it should be in the rotation at tailgates, especially with LSU baseball coming up. We'll get into some of the LSU baseball conversation. But before we go into our break, I want to give a shout out to, like I said, we talk about us getting new partners, new sponsorships all the time. We have a new sponsor, and you've probably seen them on the top left corner in the little spinner logo. FCO Solutions. Our friends on at FCO, they're out of Lafayette. They're a civil construction company. They specialize in new multi-family construction, right? If you don't know what civil construction is, it's okay. Probably a lot of people don't understand it. They basically get the land ready to be built vertically, right? I'm giving you a little bit of a construction lesson here. I don't know much about it. I've learned it on the go, right? They specialize in site drainage, site utilities, earthworks, site cleaning, house pads, ponds, demo work, and hurricane cleanup. So they do anything that involves dirt, basically, or the earth. And a lot of that gets done before, it has to be done before you are building whatever development you are trying to build. So our friends at FCO have been fans of the show. They are really, really good people. They are down there in Lafayette. If you know anybody from Lafayette, you do know me. Mitch is from New Iberia. I'll consider that Lafayette's 337 area code.
There you go.
337 area code. They are unbelievable people. They do a very, very, very good job, and they are committed to growing and being the best at what they do. So I just want to give a shout out to our friends at FCO. I know that they listen. Appreciate you guys. We are going to be great partnerships.
Yo, we got Joe Ratty here, representing LSU women's basketball with an unbelievable weekend here to start the tournament. Congrats on the Sweet 16, I guess, birth, if you will. Leave for that soon. But first, let's talk about the weekend. There's two big victories. Yeah. Talk about the weekend, the PMAC, the turnout you guys got, and obviously the performance that you got from the girls.
Well, this is all new to me. I mean, I've never been to a Sweet 16. I'd only won one tournament game up until this year, but we made it a goal as a staff at the beginning of the year that we wanted to win one more game in the tournament than we did last year, and we've reached that. But going back to the atmosphere, 17 games at home this season, and each game you could go and nitpick and say, oh, well, it was a cold, rainy night. It was too hot. It was a weeknight late game. But undefeated at home, 17-0 this year, and credit a lot of that to our student section. It started with the students from really the first week of the season, even some of those non-conference games that we were blowing teams out by 30, 40 points. And, winning takes care of a lot, but there were a lot of games at home this season. You look at the Georgia game, you look at the Arkansas game, some of those games in conference that were pretty close and were rough patches in our schedule. we probably don't win some of those games without our students and without our fans as a whole. And I think there's something to be said about continuing to fill the PMAC regardless of what else is going on in the community. We dodged a big bullet with St. Patrick's Day being on Saturday and us not having to play on Saturday, which was a little bit of a conflict last year. I thought Friday, for it being an afternoon game.
It's news to Jared.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I think Friday against Hawaii, that was kind of a knock the rust off type of game. You don't ever want to approach a game like that, but we hadn't played in almost 2 weeks, and you can try and simulate as many game-like situations in practice. You can try and scrimmage. You can try and do all that stuff,
but it ain't a game.
It's not like rolling it out.
It ain't a game.
So fortunately, we were able to clean up a few things against Hawaii, and then we had a little bit of a come to Jesus, so to speak, on Saturday in the film room, because there was a lot of things we did wrong, and a lot of things that once you play on a Friday and you have such a quick turnaround, it's not like you can spend all day on the court on Saturday. So in that short amount of time, you've got to be able to make little adjustments. And so I think our attention to detail and I think our focus slipped a little bit against Hawaii. There were a few things that we could have done better. They hit probably a few more threes than we would have liked them to. But we took care of business against Hawaii on Friday. It seems like the city of Baton Rouge had a great time on Saturday. I've seen beads from Perkins to River Road to Burbank
to the PMAC,
to the casino.
Yeah, I mean all over the place. So it sounds like Saturday was awesome, which hopefully I never, while I'm living in Baton Rouge, while I'm living in Baton Rouge, hopefully I never have to take part in St. Patrick's Day, because that would mean we're playing. And I mean that in the nicest way possible.
Lloyd literally took offense to that. He was like, I don't think he knew where you were going with that.
But Lloyd,
you should be working.
But if I was at St. Patrick's Day, that would mean that our season's over, and that's not okay. First week of March, because we're trying to build a program and set a standard here, and it's a second and third weekend type of program.
You talk about that. Obviously, you had a huge night from
What?
the Bayou Barbie.
Oh,
Angel Reese.
Angel Reese.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna finish my sentence for me. I
don't know why.
I
I don't know why you would assume that he was gonna figure that out.
She had 26, 24, and 6 blocks. I think that the most rebounds ever since Sylvia Fowles.
Yeah. But let's talk about our game against Hawaii. 35. What is it? 34 and 25. 34, 24.
That's what I figured you were going to finish it, because she's been balling in this tournament. And then my next question was going to be, who else do you expect to step up? Because if you're going to, in my mind, if you're going to win the whole thing, I might have a little future on it. I am beating you in the bracket in the men's side.
Yeah,
but
slip-ups there.
A couple of slip-ups. But if you need somebody else, who do you think that second or third player is going to be? Because you can't expect Angel Reese to do that every night, even though she has been.
I think the first 2 games, Angel, she's proven a lot of the doubters. I think going into this tournament, she had a big chip on her shoulder, because the narrative behind our team was Angel Reese doesn't show up for big games. You look at our 2 big games, South Carolina, she was probably her worst
2
game.
losses.
Yeah, worst game of the season. Then Tennessee, she still had 22 or 24 and 10, but she didn't have a rebound the last 13 minutes, 52 seconds of the game, which is so unlike Angel Reese. And it's not like she wasn't playing. I mean, she was in the game the whole end of the third and the whole fourth quarter. And so when she got back from the SEC tournament, she got with our strength coach, Thomas, and made a concerted effort to get in a little bit better shape, hit the weight room. Not like you can change overnight, but to find that next gear, it's crazy what 30, 45 extra minutes of conditioning and some weights can do for you. And in that 2 weeks that we had off between games, Angel was getting extra work in. She's not the only one. You look at Flage. Flage, the narrative had been, is the freshman ready for the big stage? And she's continued to prove all the doubters wrong this year. I think she sparked our defense against Hawaii. We could not have shot it any worse against Hawaii. I think we were 1 of 14 or 1 of 15 from 3. And it kind of started like that against Michigan. We started the game, I think, 0 of 8 or 0 of 9 from 3 in the first quarter. And the main goal against Michigan was get the ball inside because there was really no one that could guard Angel. And, yeah, Angel had all those rebounds, a lot of them offensive, cleaning up her own misses. But it was a physical game. Maybe refs missed a few foul calls. Luckily, this isn't the NBA, and I don't get fined for talking about refs. But, I mean, it was a legitimate bloodbath. Walking through the handshake line after the game last night, every single Michigan player that played in that game had some sort of blood, whether it was a cut on their neck, a cut on their arm, a bloody nose, an eyebrow. Like, I mean, there was blood everywhere. And our girls.
No. Well, I don't mean to cut you off, but like that's where I was going. So like Lloyd said, like that's where his mindset is, right? My mindset is if we're going to basically slay the dragon, right? Obviously, you got to get there. You got to take care of each step before you get there. But my mind plays back to that game that happened earlier in the year, and what I saw from them was a team that was so damn physical, right? And I thought if you guys could not so much make shots, obviously you can beat a lot of teams if you can hit shots, but you don't really control that night in and night out, right? If you guys could start playing some very, very, very inspired and super physical defense, that's the easiest route to getting to beating a team like that.
Right.
Great performance with game 1, but an even better performance defensively with game 2. What has been what's been the emphasis on getting y'all to playing like that and doing the things you just described a little bit?
I think for Sunday, the biggest message was toughness. Lack of toughness on Friday, and really lack of toughness throughout really the end of February and into March had kind of been our Achilles heel. And it's one thing that Coach Mulkey preached. It's one thing that Bob preached. We got to be tough. And we look back at Ohio State from last year. They came in and completely manhandled us. Big Ten team, won their league, somehow was a 6th seed. And, yeah, we were missing Alexis Morris. Yeah, Faustine was banged up a little bit. But you can't make excuses at this time in the year. So going into
March.
It's March. No one cares. No one cares what's wrong with your team.
Survive in advance. Huh?
Exactly. And so the emphasis was toughness. We knew that we were going to be able to execute against Michigan, but they had more size at every position, really, except for Angel. They bigger from a physical standpoint, stronger, and on film, because obviously we hadn't played Michigan before. They looked more aggressive than any team that we faced in a long time, since probably South Carolina. And so the fact that we were able to not only match their toughness, but in a sense completely run them out of the gym they were
a wood chip.
They had no shot.
I mean, they were tapping out.
He was out back
in the fourth quarter. It was over. And you love to see that we were able to empty the bench, and no better, more fitting way to end our season at the PMAC and Emily Ward's senior year at the PMAC with her getting the last rebound and getting to dribble the clock out. I mean, the fans, they didn't want to leave. But
begging her to make a 3.
Oh, it was. I mean, she had her chance against Hawaii. She had her chance, but no shots were falling against Hawaii. But I think it's just a testament to the girls right now and where they are mentally, not wanting this thing to end. Obviously, April 3rd, 4th, 5th, whatever that championship date is the final day you can play. But I'm really excited for this week because after tonight, there's only 16 teams left. And that's one thing that people started to say on Saturday after we beat Hawaii on Friday. Guys, we're one of 32 teams that's still at a shoot-around right now. We're one of 32 teams that still get to do this. And that sounds good and all, but it's really not that motivating. Now when you look at it and you see that there's 16 teams left and that bracket quadrant gets a little bit smaller, that's when you really start to elevate your game and really start to intensify your focus. And I'm excited to see how practice goes tomorrow because we didn't have a great practice on Saturday, and our shoot-around Sunday was not great at all. But, we were able to take care of business last night. And the scene in the locker room, I'm sure y'all seen it on social media. Like I said, this was my first time to ever advance to a Sweet 16 to get to that second weekend. And so I probably look crazy celebrating in the locker room, crowd surfing. I was crowd surfing, you know. And a lot of people say act like you've been there before, but one thing we haven't, and that's one thing Coach Mulkey told Coach G and Shantae and myself, because we'd never been to a Sweet 16. Coach G had never been to an NCAA tournament until he got to LSU. So
he thought about crowd surfing. He thought about it.
Yeah,
he came up.
I'm not a huge fan. I've never been a huge fan of the really act like you've been there before statement.
Okay.
Like I even think about it like on the baseball side of it, and we're sitting here saying like
at least make it gritty good.
It doesn't matter what it does. Like I just don't.
Yeah.
I just think of it. I'm like, man, like even somebody like Aaron Judge, like the guy had 600 at bats.
Yeah.
And he hit 60 homers. Right? That's less than 10% of his at bats he's hitting homers in. And you just want him to touch the plate and just jog back. Like, do something. It's just hard. Like, it's fucking hard to do.
I'm a Sully.
Like, if you do something you haven't done before, enjoy it.
Yeah.
Not saying it has to be the end of the world.
Angel hit the backwards gritty last night.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and then we give up a 3 on the other end, but who cares? We're up 20, 22, 24. We're not going to do that in a one-possession game, but gritty dude's coming to practice tomorrow. He saw it. He caught on to it, so he'll be at practice tomorrow.
Big advocate of celebrate with your team,
and that's the one thing I told the girls as they were starting to walk off the court last night. I said, especially Emily, LaDeja, Alexis, and our seniors, I was like, and Jasmine, I was like, y'all enjoy this. Make a victory lap or 2 or 3 because it's the last time that you're going to be in this environment on your home court. There's nothing like it.
Give a little neck chant.
There were a few neck chants last night.
The girls did one with us after.
Oh yeah, and we played neck in the locker room.
There you go.
So I told it.
Kev gets the water bottle.
It was awesome.
Douse.
I told the girls. So in the hallway they had the big bracket up where they give you the name and you slap it on the board. You're advancing. I told all the girls, I was like, y'all go get water bottles, and this needs to be an absolute just water
shower.
Like y'all need to soak Kim Mulkey, and they're like, all right. So they go in there, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to get me a bottle of water too. I was like, I've never been a part of this one. I've been in 1 or 2 like where we've dunked water on someone who hit a game winner. But I was like, yeah, I'm about to be a part of it. So I got G a bottle of water. I got myself a bottle of water, and Coach came in and.
Be careful.
Got flooded.
Coach ain't in flats now. Be careful.
Oh yeah,
Still an athlete.
She was loving it, and that's one thing she said last night. Once the celebration calmed down a little bit, she said we need to enjoy this one tonight and get back to the film room tomorrow, which is today, and we've started watching stuff on Utah.
The Mormons.
Getting the scouting report ready, but. It's just a fun time right now with LSU athletics as a whole. I mean, it's real special to see what's going on in Baton Rouge.
And how much do you take away from, you talk about the physicality, whether it be, obviously South Carolina, it seems like they're obviously on 2 different sides of the bracket, LSU and South Carolina. How much do you take away from y'all's ability to be physical and go against a bigger team? That was the biggest trope against South Carolina, is they don't match up physically. Like, y'all didn't match up the way that you were supposed to because of height-wise. And it seems like you showed a little bit of more tenacity on that end of the in that end of the bracket or that end of the tournament, wherever it's like, okay, if this is what we have to do, we're going to show what we can do and match up a little bit better.
Yeah, I think you don't want to say it's an outlier because, yes, we've learned a lot from that South Carolina game. But from this point on, we'll be on neutral court. We're not playing in front of someone's 18,000 fans. We're not playing in front of a DJ who doesn't stop playing music the whole game. We're not playing with freshmen who have never been in an environment like that before. That was, to me, an outlier. Put us on a neutral court, and that game's a lot closer. And I think we learned a lot from it, though. If we want to get to where we want to go, which is win championships, whether that's conference championships, conference tournament championships, or national championships, we've got to be tougher. We've got to be more physical. And you can't teach that overnight to these freshmen. They've got to kind of get manhandled a little bit, so to speak, to learn those lessons. And I think the way that they've been able to constructively criticize themselves and learn from it and take feedback from coaches, That's been the most special thing to me because a lot of these kids just like to ball up and go into a hole and just kind of shy away from all of it. But that's one thing that Coach Mulkey's not going to let you do. She's going to coach you until she can't coach you anymore. And she's done a great job with this group. And you don't want to look too far ahead, but after watching Utah, a few games on them, I'm going to keep watching. Coach Starkey's probably already watched about 15 games on them. We match up well with them, and it's a team that if we bring that physicality on Friday afternoon, I think we're either playing at 2:30 or 5. They haven't announced yet. We'll know after the 2 games tonight. But if we bring that physicality that we brought against Michigan and that toughness.
Well, I think there's a chance against anyone if you bring that kind of physicality. So you got a 2 seed against a 3 seed Friday afternoon in Greenville, South Carolina. Mm-hmm. What challenges have you seen or that you know does this Utah team present to y'all?
They push the ball. They like to run. This will be, from a transition defense standpoint for us, our biggest test of the year. Arkansas was a team that we were really worried about where they've got 5 kids that can all really shoot it. Utah shoots a lot of threes, but they also shoot a lot of layups. And they're 2 post players, Pilly and Pill or Pilly, I don't know how to say her last name, in particular. She's started the tournament off strong. She was the player of the year in the conference. I think she was freshman of the year in the conference either last year. Yeah, I think last year. So she's a dominant force for them. But she hasn't seen a big like Angel Reese. She hasn't seen a shot blocker and a shot alterer like LaDasia Williams. I mean, LaDasia last night, that's one thing that Coach Starkey said in the film room on Saturday when we were watching Michigan film. He said, LaDasia, this is a game that you need to have double-digit rebounds. And what does she do? A senior comes out and has a double-double last night. And that's the type of maturity that you want to have and leadership. Because LaDasia is probably the quietest person on the team outside of Samaya. Samaya is a freshman. But LaDasia is the type that shows up to work, takes care of business every day, and you don't have any problems with her. But there was that little extra bit of flair to her game last night that showed I ain't ready to go home yet. And I think that's real special to see, and we're going to need that. I think one thing that we can do against Utah is we can run on them. They're not a great transition defensive team. So I think we all saw last night that we are so much better when we push the ball. We get open looks and open running lanes. We can get to the paint, kick out, and hit shooters. We have the ability to offensive rebound. And for the first time in a while, just looking at Utah's starting lineup, we're going to have a little bit more experience advantage than they do. We've got an older team, a little bit older team. They've got a lot of sophomores on their team, but they're good. I mean, they've won a lot of games.
Higher seed.
Questionably.
But that was what I was going to get to when you said a 2 versus 3 seed. We knew all along from selections, when the bracketology came out, whether you're the last 2 seed or the first 3 seed, if you want to get to where you want to go, you've got to beat that 2 seed has to beat the 3 or vice versa, and we're trying to go to the same place. And after Friday, there's only going to be one team standing between us.
I would imagine, too, if you go with all the 2s and all of the 3s, there might be maybe one of the 3s who really, if they're truthful about it, could look at it and say, yeah, we don't deserve a 2. All of the 3s think they deserve a 2,
right? And
they should,
right?
So like you're looking at teams that have probably had on paper very, very, very comparable seasons, right?
100%.
So that these 2, a 3 seed, like you said, and a 2 seed, there isn't outside of who gets to play home and who gets to play here. It doesn't really make much of a difference when it comes down to it,
right? And we saw yesterday that the SEC's kind of been disrespected a little bit in this tournament.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Alabama goes up huge against Baylor and ended up losing that one, but looked great for 95% of the game. Tennessee is manhandling their way to the Sweet 16. They were up 20-plus against Toledo when I was driving over here. Ole Miss goes to Stanford, beats Stanford on their home court last night. We're playing well. Mississippi State wins a play-in game, upsets a 6 seed, and took Notre Dame down to the wire. So people need to put a little bit more respect on the SEC. South Carolina's obviously doing what they're doing. But we've got a tough conference, and I think the reason that you're going to see some of these SEC teams in the Sweet 16 and advance even further is because of the test night in and night out that we had during conference play.
So you just teed up the next thing I was going to say. I think there's been a good bit of overshadowing simply because of the perceived light schedule, simply because of the perceived didn't show up in 2 games.
Yeah.
But we're seeing stuff in purple and gold that has not been seen since Sylvia Fowles when you're talking about Angel Reese. Can you talk about, did she expect to see things like this out of herself, or you think she surprised herself a little bit by what she's done so far to date?
I think she surprised herself, and she surprised a lot of people. We knew when we got Angel out of the portal last year how good she was. We watched a lot of film on her at Maryland, but what we didn't realize is how much of a rebirth this was to her love for basketball and being able to find herself as a person and refine that love for the game. And you can have a kid go score 30, 40 a night and just not like basketball at all, and it's just miserable on them. Yeah. I mean, they throw around mental health, and it's a real thing. I mean, as a baseball player, I mean, how the game messes with your head. It's the same in basketball. It's the same in football. And Angel is in such a good place right now from a mental standpoint. And the thing about it is, yeah, she's going out and getting 20 and 20, 25 rebounds. But at the end of the day, she just wants to win. And yeah, if that's what it takes for us to win, she's going to go do it. I thought it showed a lot about her maturity last night when she got popped in the mouth on the first defensive possession of the game.
Little Kramer Robertson lip action.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, exactly like that. Yeah. And she went, I don't know what they ended up doing to it, but she came out looking crazy. But
she ended up throwing it out. She missed a rebound or something, and she was like, fuck this. And threw it on the ground.
Exactly. But to know that Angel is doing what Sylvia was doing when she was in college, and what some of the other great rebounders and scorers in the SEC were doing, it's fun to see, and it's even more exciting to see the fans kind of relive this, because a lot of our fan base, they were here for the Sylvia and Simone days, and they've kind of had a quiet decade and a half, so to speak. So it's real exciting to see what Angel's doing, and Alexis, we're still waiting on. I mean, we haven't really needed her to have a huge night, but last night I think her ability to find people who were open, push the ball up the floor. Alexis guarded so well last night, and that you don't see that on a stat sheet. You don't see how good her defense was last night. But then you look at our role players like Kateri Poole. We moved her to the starting lineup because she played in the Big Ten, and we needed her from a toughness and physicality standpoint. And on the flip side of that, you look at someone like Jasmine Carson, who started every game this season. That could really mess with someone's head when you get to the playoffs and say, hey, you're not starting. Well, what does she do? Come in and hit 3 threes back to back to back. And that was a spark that we needed.
11-0 run.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's what got the crowd going. Yeah, the defensive stops were great. Defense isn't sexy. No one really cares about defense. Right. They want to see showtime. They want to see threes going in. They want to see fast break layups. But how does all that start? On the defensive end. Yeah. And I think that's what really got us going. KP in the starting lineup from the first possession, the shot clock violation, the crowd was into it. I mean, I say it every time that I come on. I feel like the last game was the loudest it's been. And last night, from the first possession, I thought the roof was going to come off. And you look up middle of the second quarter and you've built a big lead. And then we get to the third quarter and they start on a 9-0 run. And you're like, oh, my God, is this really going to happen? This has been us all year. We haven't been able to separate. We call a timeout. Coach demands to get the ball inside and start getting stops on defense. And we go on a big run, and we end up winning the third quarter. And that's one thing we really preach is let's try and win every quarter. We break it down into 4 segments, first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. And you're down 9-0 in the third quarter, and you're like, oh, what the hell is going on? And then you look up, and you get a couple kills. You hit a couple shots, and next thing you know, you win the quarter by 1.
It's about to pop off again.
Yeah, exactly. Get the crowd into it. They start swag surfing, and then fourth quarter, it was just a cherry on top to be able to see us. Coach, there was one inbounds play that we drew up. I'm not going to say which one it was, but the fist pump that she let out when we scored on the inbounds play, And
I think I know which one it was.
I hope they don't have our film with that.
Oh, we've got so many. But G looks at me because G wanted to run something different. And G looks at me. Or no. This was a play that we ran out of a half court set. Sorry. And
never mind.
G was yelling at her to run something different. She's like, no, let's run this. We end up scoring on it, and G looks at me and goes, well, that's why she's walking up and down the sideline, and I'm sitting right here. So it was fun. I can't imagine any game the rest of the season is going to be a blowout like last night was. Obviously, we didn't expect that. But when we play like we did last night, and we match or elevate our toughness and intensity on the defensive end,
play with tenacity.
We could keep this thing going for a couple more weeks.
Yeah.
You mentioned Alexis, and obviously we haven't really needed her to score a lot. But how do you get her going when you have these big matchups, the Sweet 16, and possibly moving forward?
I think last night and really against Hawaii too, Alexis, she's not shying away from anything because her defense has kept us in a lot of these games. But you draw up a couple plays for her. The Hawaii game, she hit a couple big shots. You look last night against Michigan. We ran 2 plays for her. She scored on them. Ran an inbounds play for her. She scored on it. It's like Alexis knows how to flip that switch. And I think in the Hawaii game she settled a little bit for some threes. And whether you like it or not, Lex is the type that if that mid-range is going, that's what opens up her outside shot. Mm-hmm. South Carolina was a little different. She hit some outside shots to start the game, but Alexis mid-range is automatic. And she'll be ready for this weekend. I mean, as the lights get brighter and brighter, Alexis...
She loves it.
Oh, she loves it. Mm-hmm. She loves nothing more than the lights. So it's going to be a fun weekend in Greenville.
Hopefully they fix the roof.
Yeah. Well, the weather's supposed to be nice there this weekend. I don't know if we're going to get much rain, knock on wood. So...
when you get kids to be able to display a very, very high level of maturity, it's got to be like a rewarding feeling as a coaching staff. When you get someone like Jasmine Carson who's asked to no longer start in this game and sit on the bench, but then still come in and make a very like contributable effort to how she played, how good does that feel as a coaching staff to know you have that kind of maturity inside your locker room?
Well, Jazz is the type of kid who has the shooter's mindset. Jazz has been very, very cold the past few weeks. I mean, you look at her conference games, she shot the ball extremely well against Alabama. She shot the ball extremely well against Florida. She had 7 threes against Florida, and she shot the ball extremely well against Vandy. Since then, she's been struggling. She didn't score in the SEC tournament. She struggled to find the rim against Hawaii. So I think as a shooter, which was one of the few things I did very well playing basketball, when you see that first one go in after you've missed a bunch, it feels like you're throwing a rock into the ocean. The next one to go up. And Jazz hit 2 more after that first one, and then the fourth one she shot was a heat check. But, you know, when you're feeling it, like, we're fine with a shot like that. So I think Jazz being a senior and having played in a lot of games, she understood what we were doing. It was nothing against her. Yeah. Jazz is not as physical as KP, and LaDeja's not as physical as Angel. Like, you take different pieces because that's part of this piece it together. Like, the puzzle piece we needed to beat Michigan was put KP in the starting lineup for a little bit more toughness. And then you add that other puzzle piece, outside shooting. All right, Jazz, you go in, time to shine. And she did.
Championship teams, when you get to the tournament, whatever the tournament is, they all understand it's all hands on deck at this point.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's no longer we're going through the schedule, you get your numbers, blah, 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 blah. Even though that's not really what it is, it is all cards out the window, all bets out the window. This is the only game that really matters, and we're going to play it that way. And you need to understand when your number is called on, we need you to perform. When and where that will be, no one knows. We don't know. But when it is called, that's when you get – and for championship teams, they understand, and they're able to actually rise to those occasions.
100%. And it also goes back to a championship-level coaching staff.
Yep.
And that's what coaches assembled here. I mean, you don't even have to go all the way down the list. You just look at Kim Mulkey's tournament runs and Bob Starkey's tournament runs, everything else takes care of itself. The assistants who have been on those staffs, but Coach Starkey and Coach Mulkey know how to win at an extremely high level. So a lot of the things that they say and the adjustments that they make, it's not just a far-fetched guess. I mean, they've done a lot of really digging into it to try and figure out who our matchups are going to be, what plays we need to run, different things like that. So credit our players, but the coaches deserve their flowers too. I mean, Coach Mulkey, she watches a lot of film. Coach Starkey doesn't stop watching film. I mean, he watched 13 games on Michigan, and he's probably about at that right now on Utah. And
half the schedule.
It's fun right now that we're still able to watch film and still able to make scouting reports and keep this train rolling.
You talked about reaching the goal of the Sweet 16. Now y'all have done that. I know we had a conversation before the game last night. Well, now it's time to be greedy. And, you know, we've heard all the talk, the bad non-conference schedule, they can't win the big game, the South Carolina game. It seems like they're playing with a lot of underdog confidence, and in terms of they know they can do it, but they also know that they're being slept on, they're being disrespected. They got the 3 seed when arguably you could have made an argument for a 1.
Yeah.
What is that playing? How much is that mindset playing into that locker room right now with the confidence that they showed on Sunday and moving forward?
I think, especially after these first 2 wins, you win both games by 20 plus. People say, "Oh, you took care of business. You're supposed to do what you're supposed to do," but we still feel a little bit disrespected, and I think you use that as a motivational factor, but you also don't harp on it too much. The girls know. They know we probably should have been a higher seed. People can say whatever they want about our non-conference schedule. We did what we were supposed to do in non-conference. So you want to use all that outside whiteboard, chalkboard material, rat poison, as Nick Saban likes to say.
Or Lane Kiffin.
If you can put all that and ball it up and use it to motivate you, I think it can be really, really special. And that's, I think, looking forward to this coming weekend, we're the lower seed. Probably will be the lower seed for the 2 games, hopefully 2 games we play. But it starts with Friday night. We'll be ready for Utah. We're going to watch a lot of film on them tomorrow as a team. We're having a big send-off on Wednesday.
At noon?
At noon outside the admin building. And the plan for Utah is beat them, and then whoever we'd be fortunate enough to play on Sunday and try and win that one. And then let's have a little.
Let's have a run.
Let's have a little party at BTR Jet Center on Sunday night with some nets cut down and a trophy getting off that plane.
There you go. So Friday afternoon, time is still TBD, obviously, through the rest of the games tonight.
Yep.
Good luck to y'all this weekend, man. Thank you for coming through again today, man.
Appreciate it. Let's
time to go
on one more show next week. If we could do that.
Keep this thing rolling.
Yeah,
hey, if we can
course,
keep
we
it
have
rolling,
to.
one more show next Monday. We'll make it happen.
Well, then if you keep it going again,
Hopefully you're missing. Hopefully you're
video
missing the
call.
Tennessee series because you're in
Yeah.
Dallas.
That's the plan. But let's take care of business this weekend. Starts with Friday night and then Friday afternoon, and yeah, it's been fun. Not ready for it to end yet.
No, I feel you. Neither are we. Yeah. Good stuff, dude. We appreciate you coming through, and we'll see you next week. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Break?
We'll do that. We'll talk into existence. We'll see you next week.
Little extra mini break. Let him get out of here.
We're going to get hibachi.
Ooh, nice.
Joe's always eating after these. He's always leaving for dinner.
He is.
I don't want to eat before.
Yeah.
We off?
I don't blame you. No, we're still on. All right, and we'll be right back after this break.
Now we're off.
Maybe.
I don't want now.
You gonna shotgun another one?
You want another? I don't know if you should shotgun because we saw how that went last time.
I don't know. I feel like you got to redeem yourself.
You can have a drink. I don't think you should shotgun it.
The way it went,
I'll enjoy this one.
I think you should chug it, but maybe not shotgun it.
The way it went last time, it's
Yeah, I can do. I mean, I
can't
can
sip
do
it.
anything. I know. All right, fuck it.
All right, go ahead. Go for it. There.
Oh, that's much
There you
better.
go.
1, 2,
Open it up a little bit. You know what I
4,
mean?
5, 6, 7, 8,
Okay.
9,
Okay. It's
10,
now it's starting to drip. Now
11,
you're struggling a little bit.
12,
It's pretty good.
13. It's not bad.
I'll give you
Not
12 and a half seconds there. How was it? Was it good?
Delicious. You
It was
can't
very
do that.
With a regular one.
With a regular one.
Right.
You can only do that with the silver.
With the silver, why? Because the silver's lighter. It's got
Lighter.
95 calories. It's pretty crisp. That wasn't even cold. I know you don't necessarily need a cold beer. That was room temp.
That's
I respect how quickly you turned around and gave me a full sentence. That was quick.
Oh, yeah.
That.
No Officer, I'm fine.
You've been around
straight
before.
line, kid.
Yeah.
You've been around before, but
It's just breakfast.
It's a very good beer. It's a very light beer. It's something that you can
easy to drink.
Easy to drink.
Easy to pour.
Yeah. But it's something that, I think it should be in the rotation at tailgates, especially with LSU baseball coming up. We'll get into some of the LSU baseball conversation. But before we go into our break, I want to give a shout out to, like I said, we talk about us getting new partners, new sponsorships all the time. We have a new sponsor, and you've probably seen them on the top left corner in the little spinner logo. EFCO Solutions. Our friends on at EFCO, they're out of Lafayette. They're a civil construction company. They specialize in new multi-family construction. Right? If you don't know what civil construction is, that's okay. Probably a lot of people don't understand it. They basically get the land ready to be built vertically, right? Giving you a little bit of a construction lesson here. I don't know much about it. I've learned it on the go, right? They specialize in site drainage, site utilities, earthworks, site cleaning, house pads, ponds, demo work, and hurricane cleanup. So they do anything that involves dirt, basically, or the earth. And a lot of that gets done before, it has to be done before you are building whatever development you are trying to build. So our friends at EFCO have been fans of the show. They are really, really good people. They're down there in Lafayette. If you know anybody from Lafayette, you do know me. Mitch is from New Iberia. I'll consider that Lafayette's 337 area code.
There you go.
337 area code. They are unbelievable people. They do a very, very, very good job, and they are committed to growing and being the best at what they do. So I just want to give a shout out to our friends at EFCO. I know that they listen. Appreciate you guys. We are going to be great partnerships.
I'm back, and we are here to round this thing out and finish the night off here, the Monday night. We're going to finish it off with the segments. We got Mistake of the Day brought to you by...
Josie, please.
Ooh, he's on point with it today.
You can't spell steak without steak.
Yeah, he's on point
Can't spell
today.
nose without steak.
What you got for us? What do you got for us today?
My mistake of the day. And shout out Mario Chalmers. The man got bullied his entire career by LeBron James, so he finally gets his shot in. And he says, people aren't afraid of LeBron James the way that they should be. Or the way that you'd expect people to respect somebody like that. Is it fair to say top two and maybe not two? I know you're a big MJ guy.
I think it's pretty fair.
But he finally got on the podcast. Good for him. And I understand why he has his take and what it is, because he got straight up bullied.
People be scared when they actually line up to him, but they're not scared. Nobody fears.
Not a bad player. First bet I ever made was Mario Chalmers.
Nobody fears.
I was 15.
Oh, that's why you remember it.
Yeah, it's super illegal then.
There you go.
But he has his own take on what he thinks the league thinks about LeBron, and here it is.
Nobody fears Gronk. Nobody's like that. Nobody said. I don't know why. Right. Because I seen people be scared when they actually line up to them, but they're not scared thinking about that matchup. Right. You hear anybody from that era talk about going against Jordan, there's a fear. Right. So when you have people that fear a player, then that's telling you something different already. Like, Jordan's just that guy. Like, everything is, I want to be like Mike. Right. Nobody fears Gronk. Nobody's like, yeah, I gotta play.
Just a fool. Just a foolish take.
You know what else he said? I don't know if y'all saw it. Remember Ray Allen's, famous Game 6 3 in the corner? He said, I was really wide open in the other corner. I wish I could have took that shot. I would have hit nothing but net.
Yeah, well,
that's what he said.
The other one got hit with a hand in the face, so who cares? Look, that's fine. If you want to say that, that's cool. But I think there's a lot to be said about somebody that you don't fear and is still just going out there and just smacking you every night.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to say you don't fear him.
All-time leading
Chalmers
scorer.
never played against him. He was on his team.
Yeah.
It's okay.
So Mario, do your thing. I always respected Mario for taking all that shit from Dwayne Wade and LeBron. Like, he was getting smacked around.
But Mario at Kansas, was it?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Kansas versus Memphis. That was the first game I ever bet on.
He was nasty.
He was that dude for a minute.
He was nasty.
He was that dude for a minute.
He just fell on a team where he was never going to be that dude when he got to the league.
No.
Got him a few rings out of it.
He did. All right, we'll go to curtain call, finish this thing out. Curtain call brought to you by Assured Partners and
Mikie Mahtook.
Okay, there we go.
And
Franklin
Harris.
There you go. All right, Jack, what do you got? Curtain call.
Well, my first, I think I put both of these in here actually, but Princeton, made it to the Sweet 16, even though they're probably all there for school. And there was a video.
I don't know. They got one dude on the team. He is nice. He got a nice little shot on him.
But so they make it to the Sweet 16. And somebody went around campus recording the reaction to them making the Sweet 16, and I'll just let Lloyd play the video because it's about as Princeton as it gets. They're all in the study hall. They don't care. They don't even know they didn't know their team played basketball today.
That's unbelievable to me. LSU was going bananas for a women's appearance to go to the Sweet 16. This what are they, a 14 seed?
Yeah.
Don't care.
Chilling.
They don't give a shit.
Campus looks fire though.
Yeah,
there's a nice little library right there.
I guess that's what you get when
very clean.
Yes.
They're solving cancer and world hunger over there.
Yeah, they ain't worried about basketball, but here they are.
What you got, Lloyd?
I actually took one of Jack's also. Curtain call. It's for A&M.
It's kind of an anti-curtain call, but it's a curtain call to our people because Lloyd will tell the story.
Let me pull it up. Sorry. Give me 2 seconds.
Well, I can kind of context it. So
this is actually your curtain call.
So we posted the video of the A&M guy's extremely horrible gritty after his first inning homer. His first homer all year, by the way, pipsqueak. And then so this guy, who obviously doesn't know who Mikey or Mitch are, decides to reply to it. It's baseball. You clearly didn't play past T-ball. How did that sweep work out? Well, I think they made it quite past T-ball. Even me and Lloyd did. And so even Kendall Rogers, Mr. D1 Baseball, thought it was so obnoxious that he even had to reply to it. Wait, did someone tell Mikey he didn't play baseball through T-ball? And then this guy tries to save his ass and says, I know who they are. The fact that he's crying, I don't think he knew. I don't think he knew at all. Because even if you did know at all, that wouldn't have been the response.
Maybe that was Buddy's master plan. Maybe he was working on his impressions right there.
Well, if he knew, like his attempt at an excuse to say it would have been the first response of you've never celebrated anything. If he knew who y'all were,
he got ratioed so hard. 41,000 views on this tweet, and this man is trying to save his ass, and he's like,
he got more replies than likes.
Yeah, dude, yeah, Google works.
And it's really, you don't even have to Google it. Just click on our profile, and their tags are right there in the bio. Click on it, and you can figure it out.
Hey, whatever, bro.
T-ball trophy stacking up.
I was good in T-ball.
Is that a picture from T-ball?
Yes, it is actually.
Yeah,
it is right there. I was actually pretty good in T-ball.
It's the T-ball championship.
Woo, boy, just used to run.
Bet last.
Just run. It didn't matter. My curtain call is gonna go to not like the job's not finished, but in a year where it seemed like a lot of this really, 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 really mattered. So I may be doing this again. But in a year where it seemed like it mattered a lot more worldwide.
Most effort.
You see a USA team who put together a strong team. We could easily say the weaker part of the team has been the pitching. And we talked previously about why we thought the pitching on the USA team is not stacked with all of the names that you're used to seeing, right? Well, here they are. When is it? Friday night that the game is?
I think it's tomorrow. Or
tomorrow night. I think you're actually right. Tomorrow night, you're looking at the USA team who will be matching up against who's playing right now, either the Japanese team or the Mexico team, Mexico. But they are awaiting their semifinal opponent right now as they wait in the finals, which will be playing tomorrow night. So my curtain call will be to this USA team who, even though it was doubted because they wasn't able to field the team with, their top tier arms, still sitting here waiting for it. And they won the last WBC too, correct?
Yeah, that was when Adam Jones robbed the
waiting
homer at
for
the
a
wall.
back-to-back win right here. So
In
shout
Los
out
Angeles,
to
I
Team
think.
USA because back in the big dance of it all again.
Also, did y'all see that Cuba guy defected before,
Yeah,
before their flight?
it was the
Oh,
bullpen
that's
catcher.
right.
It was the bullpen catcher.
I'm just staying here.
I'm out, coach. I'm not going back.
I ain't going back to that motherfucker.
Y'all son that guy from Nicaragua. I could play.
Might have been the bullpen catcher, but I could play a little
I
bit.
could play a little
I
bit.
love it. So that's it. We appreciate y'all coming through. If you get a chance, hit that like button, hit that dislike button,
Not the
comment,
dislike button.
tell a friend. I don't care what you hit.
Yeah.
Subscribe, do whatever you can. We're on all podcast networks. We're on all streaming networks. Well, most of them whenever Lloyd does what he needs to do, which is always.
Thank you.
We are there.
Yeah, don't be-
Check us
yeah,
out.
Don't be Mikey.
Play it, replay it, tell a friend, phone a friend. Get in on it, man. It's been cool. We enjoy doing this for y'all. We enjoy the interaction we have with y'all. Thank y'all for coming. Thank y'all for staying. We will see you Wednesday, 6 to 8. Again on Friday, 1 to 3. We'll be here. Meet us here. Let's talk about it. That's Mikey and Mitch coming on Wednesday.
Absolutely.
Booze Cruise inbound tomorrow.
Booze Cruise
hope-
on its
Gotcha.
way this
You
week.
disappointed
He's
me.
due. He's due.
He's due. Lloyd's due.
Which means y'all are due. Share the videos.
Everyone else is due to follow up and literally crush Lloyd's
Friday
performance.
was a
See,
disaster.
Lloyd likes when we do these out of because he doesn't really like the beer part of it. So
If I
he's
can get it home.
hoping Dylan homers tomorrow, which I'm hoping he homers tomorrow because I just want to see Lloyd do it at every time, anytime,
Crush the liquor.
crush it. Thank y'all for coming, man. We'll see y'all on Wednesday.
Shout out your wife. Shout out Bo for surviving in advance.
No, man, we out, man. It's over. We out. It's over.
Shout out Michigan.
Shout out Michigan.
And not the basketball team.
All right, and we'll be back Wednesday. Like he said, Mikey and Mitch, get your questions in. Other than that, enjoy the rest of your night. Shout out Jay Johnson.
Of course.
Joe Ratty.
was coming through.
Shout out Ratty.
Of course.
I feel like he's downplaying a little bit of how they might win a natty. Natty for
He
Ratty.
should be.
Natty for Ratty.
All right, and we're done.
Adios, amigos.
Just gotta oh, perfect. All right, we
Lloyd
done.
hit the button.
Shout out Lloyd never hitting the button.
I still got 10 minutes to fill.
Shut up.